Hey guys, welcome back to another day of One Room Schoolhouse. We are actually over at Mercury One inside of the new exhibit space. We actually just had our first event here last night. We're getting it ready so that you guys can come over, check out the collection, be a part of all the fun and amazing things that are happening here. But we wanted to talk a little bit about what is happening today because it is Constitution Day, which I don't know about you, it's one of my favorite days of the year because I think we should all, have a party and celebrate the Constitution because of how successful it really has been.
If you like protests and revolutions and violent stuff, you're probably not going to like Constitution Day because this is a successful day.
Exactly, because America has actually had one of the longest lasting written constitutions in the history of the world. In fact, we are over 230 years underneath the same constitution, which is actually exceptional in the history of the world.
What is the average length of a constitution for every other nation in the world?
The average length for a constitution for the rest of the world is only 17 years.
The problem we have is we've been stable for so long, we just take it for granted.
Yep.
One of the great lessons I learned is from this guy right here, Dr. Benjamin Rush. Benjamin Rush, we have his prayer journal, and in his writings and memoirs, he's talking about how that as a Christian, he wants to be really appreciative to God for all the blessings enjoyed. And so he goes through this list of blessings. And as I was reading it was kind of like, what? Because he's thanking God for this, and he says, and I thank God for all the times I have not fallen down the stairs. You go, what? And I thought about it, I thought, that's really true. If you fall down the stairs, that's what people notice, and that's not a blessing. It's like, when you don't fall down the stairs, you take that for granted. If you go out driving your car, you don't have a wreck, that's no big deal. You would notice if you have a wreck, but the blessing is not having a wreck. And so many of the things that are our greatest blessings, we just take for granted. Our health until we lose it, or our family until something happens, or our Constitution, our stability until you lose it. And so we talked last week about the 1619 Project. The 1619 Project, one of the fundamental premises is that America was founded on slavery to perpetuate slavery, and that the constitutional system we have is a source of all ills, including racism. So if you want to get rid of racism, you got to get rid of the constitutional system. They don't have a clue what's going on. I live in a nation where you have a constitution every 17 years. I mean, we've been blessed with stability.
Yeah, underneath the American Constitution, more people have been really freed out of slavery. To this day, America is one of the leading nations in the world fighting against slavery.
Yeah, and on the global standard, on the world standard, America is listed as the #2 nation in the world, only behind Netherlands, in fighting slavery and racism. So of 195 nations, we're #2 in the list.
Yeah, and all of that goes back to the stability, prosperity, success that we've enjoyed because of our constitutional system, which secures equal rights to all people. And what's great about the Constitution, too, is if we have an issue with it, the founders understood, there has to be a way to remedy that through a constitutional process known as the amendment process. So if we have an issue with the Constitution, don't throw the Constitution away.
That's right.
Let's deliberate on it. Let's think about it. Let's join together and reason it out.
The Constitution really kind of starts back with the signers of the Declaration, because they laid out the principles of government. And then 11 years later, they said, all right, these principles we laid out, let's do a constitution based on that. And it worked really well until you had a lot of racist people who said, well, equal rights for everybody except blacks, and they should be slaves. And so what happened was, we're standing here beside a desk that's from the old U.S. House of Representatives. This desk, it was used in the House of Representatives from 1857 to 1873. So that means it's seen a lot of stuff. It was there when Charles Sumner was caned over in the Senate because he's an abolitionist, and a pro-slavery rep from the House went over and just clubbed him down. This saw secession. When all the Southern congressmen left, all the Democrats from the South said, we're out of here, they left. This desk went through secession. And then it went through the Civil War. And then this desk saw constitutional amendments, 3 of them. This desk saw the 13th Amendment, where we abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment guaranteeing all former slaves equal rights regardless of color of skin, and then the 15th Amendment, which guaranteed that all people had the right to vote. So this went through a lot of stuff. The last guy to use this was a congressman named John Lynch out of Maine, who was a Republican, anti-slavery guy. But this went all the way up to the end of Reconstruction, essentially. So it probably saw, out of the 23 or so civil rights laws, this desk probably saw at least 20 of the 23 civil rights laws being passed.
Amazing.
So we got a great Constitution. We've changed it from time to time as it needed to be changed. And again, if those guys in the South had just remembered the principles of the Declaration that all men are created equal, we wouldn't have had to change it. But when you get away from that, sometimes you do. But it's still, even with the changes we've made, it's the longest lasting, ongoing Constitution in the world. And, I mean, that's a huge blessing.
Yeah, and so this year for Constitution Day, really take time, read it if you haven't read it all the way through, learn some more things about it. In fact, we actually just had a new book come out called The American Story, and in the latter half of that, we actually spend a long time going through almost line by line the Constitution, what it means, why it says that, why it really is an exceptionally great document and one that we're blessed to live under. So this Constitution Day, pick up The American Story, learn more about the Constitution, and join us next time on the One Room Schoolhouse.